Big data. You've heard that term thrown around a million times, right? It sounds, well, big, kind of complex, maybe even a little intimidating. But what if we could just peel back the layers, figure out what it really is, and more importantly, how it's changing, like, everything? So let's try and demystify this thing together. Have you ever stopped to think about how your weather app works? I mean, really think about it. How does it take a bunch of random temperature readings and spit out a clear message like, hey, you should probably bring an umbrella today? Or what about a store using just raw sales numbers to guess exactly what you're going to want next week? It's that magic trick, right? That transformation from a jumble of facts into a super useful decision. That's what we're digging into. All right, so before we can even touch big data, we've got to go back to basics. We need to talk about its fundamental building block, just plain old information. You can think of it as this invisible force, this engine that's constantly running in the background, shaping pretty much every choice we make, from what to have for breakfast to, much bigger stuff. And seriously, we use it for everything. On a personal level, right? It's what helps you decide the fastest way to get to work. For a business, it's how they try to predict the future, forecasting sales, figuring out what to stock. And then you scale that up to a societal level. Governments are using it to create policies, to keep the lights on. It's basically the essential tool for just getting through life. Okay, so where does all this useful info actually come from? Well, for a long, long time, we've had this pretty simple but really powerful process. I kind of like to picture it as an information factory. You've got this system that's built to take in raw stuff and spit out something super valuable at the end. And the process was always pretty straightforward, right? Step one, you start with raw data. Think of it like the ingredients, just a bunch of numbers, facts, with no real context. Then comes step two, the processing part. This is where you clean it up, sort it out, analyze it. And the result? That's your actionable information. That's the whole point, really, turning a messy pile of data into a crystal clear insight that helps you make a choice. And for decades, that little factory model worked like a charm. It was perfect. But now, well, something's different. That old, reliable system, it's starting to break. It's cracking under all the pressure. Now, the problem isn't the factory itself. The design is fine. It's the sheer amount of raw material being shoved into it. We are living in a data deluge, a flood. Every single click, every purchase, every little sensor out there is creating more and more data. And this tidal wave is just completely swamping our old ways of doing things. And that is what big data really means. It's not just that it's a lot of data. The key is that it's data that is so huge, so complex, that the normal software, the stuff on your laptop or even on some pretty beefy servers, it just can't handle it. It chokes, it freezes up, it crashes, it just plain fails. So this data flood, it doesn't just break our old tools. It creates this whole new landscape of massive, massive challenges. Let's actually break down the 4 biggest hurdles we're up against. Yeah, this overwhelming scale creates a whole bunch of interconnected problems. And this is where things start to get really tricky. Okay, first up, the most basic problem you can imagine, storage. I mean, where do you physically put all this stuff? We're not talking about gigabytes anymore. We're way past that. We're talking petabytes, exabytes, these crazy huge numbers. Just finding enough digital real estate to keep it all and keep it safe without breaking the bank, that's a monumental challenge right there. All right, let's say you solve the storage problem. Great. Now what? Challenge number 2 is analysis and sharing. It takes an absolutely insane amount of computing power. We're talking spread across thousands of machines sometimes, just to find one meaningful pattern in that ocean of data. And then, even if you find something useful, how do you share it with the people who need it, fast enough for it to still matter? And speaking of things being outdated, that's the very next hurdle. A lot of big data is being created in real time. It's not a lake, it's a constantly flowing river. So the challenge is trying to keep these gigantic data sets accurate and up to date. It's this never-ending, incredibly difficult job. And finally, we get to what might just be the most important hurdle of all, privacy. Because buried deep inside all these data sets is really sensitive stuff. We're talking your personal info, my personal info, top secret corporate data, you name it. And figuring out how to protect all of that from being misused or stolen, that is truly one of the biggest challenges of our generation. So here we are. We've got this incredible, unbelievably powerful resource, this flood of data. But at the same time, it's kind of a digital beast, right? It's broken our old tools, it's thrown up all these massive new challenges. So, what does that actually mean for the future? And this quote, man, it just nails it. It gets right to the heart of the problem. The whole game has changed. The old rulebook, it's useless now. We are literally in a race to invent completely new tools, new methods, new ways of even thinking about this stuff, just to keep our heads above water. And all of this leaves us with the big question of the big data era, doesn't it? We know there's this incredible potential here. I mean, the power to solve some of humanity's biggest problems, from curing diseases to tackling climate change. But we also know the risks are just huge. So the great challenge for all of us is to find that balance. How do we harness all this incredible power while at the same time fiercely protecting the thing that's most important? Our privacy, our security, the stuff that's fundamental to our freedom. It's a huge puzzle, and honestly, we're just getting started trying to figure it out.